Hi, thank you for joining us for Loving the Artist Within. As you can tell, we have a new look and a new home. I have finally combined my two passions, facilitate the healing with flatbread media, to announce Flatbread for Life. Igniting your superpower, creating change, and transforming lives. Thank you for joining us for Loving the Artist Within. Today we have Shane Maynard. She is an award-winning poet, an author, a creative coach, and also the founder of Guerilla Poets, to name a few. We're gonna find out during this episode, it was too good to keep into one, so we made 3. What are the ways that we could help? With COVID and everything that's happening right now, we gotta give back some way. With her activism, she tells us why and how to create lasting change. And it might not be what you think. Well, I am so excited, Shane, to have you on Loving the Artist Within series this week. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here too. I think I was talking about how beautiful the interviews are, so it's an honor to be here today. So I'm a creative coach. I'm a spoken word artist. I'm also a live painter and a visual artist. And I also work a lot with teens. So a big passion of mine is working with teens and youth that have behavioral health challenges. And yeah, I just love to create and do art. And writing. I've been doing it since I was little. So I'm very blessed that I actually get to do it for a living. So
yes, that's always good when our passions meet our purpose, and then we're able to just dive right in. So tell us a little bit about what are some of the challenges that you had to overcome?
I experienced a lot of trauma. So I was writing and doing art at a very early age, and there was never this idea that like, oh, it had to come out perfect because I was doing it for survival. So I never really had a challenge with perfectionism, but my challenges were definitely personal. I think that anybody who does any kind of creative journey, whether even if that's entrepreneurship, you're also going to be on a life journey, because you can't move forward if you don't address things that are inside of you that are keeping you stuck. So trying to understand why I was struggling so much mentally and what I needed to do to get through that, because I do believe that writing and art and all art forms really help, and they do save lives. And there needs to be other tools that you have in your toolkit, to help you heal and to grow. And I learned that very early on, because I was writing and doing art constantly, but I still was self-harming. I still had many suicide attempts. So I knew that I needed something else. I just didn't know what that was. So my struggles have been, just dealing with what I was going through. And then when I got older, the struggle was, now what do I do with it? And how do you get your voice out there so that, you can make an impact, or even just get even more free by expressing it. It's almost like confession. It's one thing to write a poem on a page. It's another to speak it out loud to witnesses, and really feel free from it. I think the hardest part for me was just, I guess, navigating that and not having a mentor really. By the time I got to the point where I was old enough to go out to places and start sharing, I had to find my mentors. I had to cultivate them myself. I didn't have somebody guiding me along every step of the way. I had a lot of supportive teachers, had a lot of supportive, people who knew about art and all types of art, but I didn't really have that one person like, oh, I'm going to take you to this place and introduce you to this person. And so I had to kind of navigate that. So that was definitely a challenge.
Yeah. What an amazing story. And so much that you had to overcome. And I can actually see, based on your journey, why you do what you do now. It's like you're providing that mentorship to others, and really getting out there as a creative coach, helping people kind of navigate those waters for themselves. So that's amazing. So did that influence your activism and working with teenagers?
Yeah, it's funny because when I was a teen, which is when I was doing the majority of my writing, because that was when I was very mentally unstable. I was in a very, very bad place. My father had just died, and it was sudden. It was really bad. Um, so I was writing constantly. Like I even remember, like when classes would switch, I would have a piece of paper on the wall, and I would be writing a poem on my way to the next class. Like I remember that, and I didn't know at the time that this is what I would be doing. Like I didn't know at the time that I would be, on stage, or have books out and things like that. But I did know that I wanted to work with teens even as a teenager, because I wasn't getting the help I needed. It was either punishment, or you know, I if if I was acting out, which I did a lot, if I was acting out, or becoming violent, whether to myself or other people, no one ever asked the question like, "Are you okay? Like, do you what do you need? Can we get you some help?" And it was either like I was brushed off, like, "We're just gonna ignore that you have an issue, so we don't want to admit something's wrong, and we don't even know how to help you, even if we did." Or it was, "You're bad, we're gonna punish you," kind of thing. So I knew the need. I had so many friends that were also, severely suicidal, self-harmed. I knew the need, and I promised myself, I was like, if I do live, because I was completely convinced I wouldn't even make it to 18. And then when I was 18, I was like, there's no way I'm making it to 21. And here I am, 36. But I, I was like, if I make it, if I survive, I want to work with teens. So that was something that was always in my heart. I knew that, but I had no idea that I didn't even know poetry and art would be involved in that. So it's really beautiful to see how the journey unfolded. And I run a nonprofit called Guerilla Poets. And what got me started into really finding that avenue of working with teens and adults too, incorporating art and poetry into personal development. It was in 2012, and I had shared a poem at an open mic, and a elderly man had walked up and said that that poem saved his life. Like he was going to go home that night and commit suicide. And that was the moment where I was like, oh wow. So not only does does it heal me and help me, but by sharing my story, it can help others. And then I was just on fire. I was like, it was like confirmation. It was like, yes, this is needed. That's when I started the Guerilla Poets, and we got involved in school systems and everything else. And like anytime you're working with somebody in an artistic way, there's this little holy moment that happens, but you gotta be looking for it sometimes. Like sometimes it's as profound as, the man coming up and being very direct about it. But other times it's like, seeing shoulders relax in a classroom when someone's drawing or writing, or seeing someone, the spark of joy in their face when like they really like what they wrote, or realizing that they can rewrite their own narrative. It doesn't have to be like um chained to their past or whatever, someone else has tried to tell them their story is. So I feel like those moments I've been very blessed to be able to see, and that has really kept me going and keeps me going still to this day, of just seeing the proof that like the world needs this. And yeah.
I love that. Tell me about your activism. Why do you do it? How can people help? Why is it important, especially now?
With everything going on in the world, I'll start there. These issues that are coming to the forefront have been issues that have existed for literally ever since America was even founded. And that's the reason why, it's like enough is enough. But I think people who want to get involved and they feel like they feel like if they're not out joining the protests, if they're not out doing this huge self-sacrifice thing, that they're not doing their part. What I would really love people to know is that it doesn't have to be that, like, it can be so simple, and in just how you intentionally live your life every day, and intentionally stand up and speak your voice when you do see injustice, or when someone needs help, and not doubting yourself, like, oh well, I'm not worthy enough to help them, or my past experience won't be able to help them, but actually, like, putting your stuff aside and just being able to be present with someone. When we talk about activism, I think people think that it's like, Joan of Arc out there, just, and that's a level of it, but there are other levels that are very needed. Like, I think if you're doing any type of internal work, you're self-reflecting, you're thinking about your own biases, you're thinking about, the hard conversations that you can be having with family members or with friends, or, how can you support Black-owned businesses, things like that. That matters. We need that too. I always tell people, if you are upset about life or you are feeling hopeless, you need to get hands-on in the community, because you will no longer be. Like, if you are out helping and being of service to people, you will be able to see such beautiful things that your heart will get so full that you won't have that dark outlook, and you will feel like you're a part of something. And I think on a individual level, that's why activism is important. On a macro level, uh, it's going to take generations, no matter what the issue is, whether it's climate change, whether it's economy, whether it's racism, no matter what it is not something that happens overnight. It takes generations of people actively, intentionally, doing something or saying something, to make that change happen. And I used to get really upset as an activist, because I would see activists out there dedicating their entire lives, and just not having their own, like, not having their own life, because there wasn't enough people out there to do what they were trying to do. And I feel like, especially right now, there is a huge potential and a huge ability for that to change, so that the people who are out there making lifelong sacrifices, like sacrifices that are just incredible for change, won't have to do that if we all did something. You know what I mean? And I think that we have that opportunity right now, as people are starting to realize, oh, I do have power to make a change. And I think that I honestly believe that within 5 to 10 years, I think we're going to see a different America. I really do. I really do. And I'm holding on to that. I really am. I really am. But we have to keep going.
Oh yeah.
I completely agree with you. Like, I told somebody this on a open mic on Instagram, because there's been a lot of open mics on Instagram. I said, look, y'all, I know you're tired, and I know it's exhausting, and I know it's frustrating, but I was like, rest. This is a marathon. This is not a charge, like, this is a marathon.
Intention is huge. Like you said, going out with the intention of giving back, the intention of helping, the intention of breaking or noticing a bias and correcting it inwardly. And then going out, if you're feeling down, and going out and helping. That's the biggest thing that you can do to shift your perspective. I completely agree with you. Giving back and just volunteering and helping, seeing what's out there is just a huge way to shift your perspective very, very quickly. And your prediction, I love it. In 5 to 10 years, I agree with you. We're rebalancing right now. And you're right, the people that have given so much of their time to these causes, and they're tired. And what's happening now, and I see it too, is people are kind of taking up so they can rest, and then it's kind of like balancing it out. So I love that, and I'm very hopeful for the future. How can people help your cause, the Guerilla Poets, the juvenile detention? I mean, I'm already like, I need to talk to you about signing up to help.
Yeah, so we always take volunteers. I will say this, there are some places like lockdown facilities that we go that like other volunteers can't go. So there are places that volunteers are more than welcome to come in. And then there are some places where it's just a whole process, and we have to really get to know somebody before we bring them in to those areas and take them through the process. But there's lots of things. Right now we usually ask for art supplies for our art programs, but right now we're good on art supplies. But just check us out on social media. If we need anything, we'll ask. Normally, we'll do a fundraiser. Like if anybody ever wants to be a sponsor, that's a huge help, because we operate on a very low budget compared to other nonprofits. We're very grassroots, but it gives us the freedom to be able to do as much as we do. But yeah, coming in, helping with workshops, helping with programming, even if anybody out there is like a good administrator, like helping type stuff up, like that nonprofits need that too. That would make a huge impact on the nonprofit and help them do what they do if people had more interns and things like that. We have a sponsor who did an art program with our teens where like they do art cards, and he sponsored $5 a card, and then whichever card he picks, the winner gets like $20 too. So like, but the teens get that money, so like that's awesome. And then he'll match the money as a donation to Guerilla Poets, which is an awesome creative way to still be a donor, but also like influence the teens on a personal level.
I feel like we could talk for hours, and I just have so enjoyed this. I've got my own kind of coaching session with you today, so it's been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, and just for being here, and for being in the world, and for helping so much. It's amazing, and I can't wait to maybe connect with you outside of this because I'm like, that's a girl I gotta know. So thank you so much.
Coffee.
Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out Shane's other 2 interviews. It was so good, we couldn't wrap it up into one. She talks about her new book, Devine Disturbances, and what exactly is a multi-potentialite.